so excited to be with one of the people I admire most in the world, Tony Robbins, who has literally helped millions of people around the globe, including me. I've been to his seminars and read his book, and at a time when my wife was having a really hard time when she had cancer, Tony's work just made a huge difference. So there is really no introduction. But Tony came and visited Demon Clinics to learn about.
Let me just say first, I'm a giant fan of this man. Who isn't, right? I've watched over the years while people attacked you in the beginning when you're the pioneer and get all the arrows, and now I see everybody quoting you, which just makes me so happy. And I wanted to come see you, and he reached out at the most perfect time because I've dealt with mercury poisoning in my body, and that gave me a reason to come take a look at my brain at a larger scale. And you really gave me some insights today that are invaluable, some things that I can do that can massively improve it, because I've experienced some real challenges there. And I hope those watching will understand that there's so many things like dementia that are misdiagnosed often, and oftentimes they're brain injuries, concussions, or they're chemical injuries like I've had. And people get misdiagnosed, they don't know what to do. What I love about what you're doing, what I thought was so brilliant, is how can you know if you don't look at the brain? How can you know? And as you said, you're in an industry that doesn't, everybody else studies the organ that they're a part of, and psychiatric group doesn't usually look at it. So you've so pioneered this, and I'm so grateful to you. And I'm probably talking to the choir with your audience, but I'm going to get it across to my 10 million followers as well, so that we get more people. I've already talked about you many times, I'm sure you know.
And that's why I reached out.
Yeah,
because someone in my office said, Tony's talking about you, and I'm like a little kid. So happy.
That's awesome.
But you know, one of the things that I appreciate about you is you grew up with a lot of drama and a lot of emotional and physical trauma.
Yeah.
And it didn't stop you. In fact, it motivated you to help people who were suffering. And as I watch you teach people about success, I always wanted to reach out and like wave my hand and go, there's one other very important part about success, and it's how your brain actually physically works.
Yes.
Because when it works right, you work right, and when it's troubled, people suffer with things that are often reversible or treatable, or things that we could help
But we often tend, unfortunately, traditional psychiatric approaches and psychological approaches often will mask that, unfortunately. What I love about you is getting down to what the real reality is. But yeah, I suffered immensely physical trauma. My mother loved me, and but I was the oldest, and she abused drugs and alcohol, so I can only imagine what her brain looked like. And she was very intense, and she'd smash my head against the wall until I bled, or pull liquid soap down my throat. She thought I was lying, and I wasn't. But you know, for me, when you talk about the turnaround of that, because I suffered, I don't want any other human to suffer. That's where my drive comes from. You know, at this stage of my life, obviously I don't have to work with all the companies and things that I do, but I'm just as driven today, even more so. And I think that when people start to realize that there are other things that outside the psychological side, there are physical aspects, I think you've given me a really wonderful gift, because I haven't seen anyone really, if they do look at a scan, then what they want to do is provide drugs for them, and sometimes that might be appropriate, but as you and I both agree, it's overdone, and people diagnose the way, as you described, Abraham, at the same time they did as Abraham Lincoln in the 1840s. They're doing the same stuff. There's no breakthrough. So you're bringing that to the table. But my whole belief is, if my mother had been the mother that I wanted, then I wouldn't be the man I'm proud to be today, right? And if you know, I fed 100 million people last year, I fed 100 million people the year before, I'm going to feed 100 million this year. I have a partnership with Feeding America. I provide 50 million meals, and I do matching funds. I'm going to feed 1 billion people in the next 7 years. That's just one thing I'm doing. Now, would I have ever done that if I had not suffered with no food, you know, at Thanksgiving? No. So I really believe that either trauma and stress and pain and problems, they either destroy you or they drive you. And I think we have to make this conscious decision to do it. But what you're bringing up is, let's say you got that drive and you're going to make the most of it. Let's make sure that the organ itself is at functional efficiency, so you get the maximum capacity that's available to you. And I think anybody who's watching, if you've read the books and you're a fan here, I think you really got to make it to one of his centers. You got 6 now, going to be 8 by the end of the year, right? So New York, and I'm sure everybody knows where they are. Please go. I'm thrilled, and I asked him to visit with you guys just briefly, just be one more voice to add to those. Sometimes you know something's valuable, you read about it, you say you're going to do it, but you're so busy in your life. This is the type of thing that, if you did it now instead of 5 or 10 years from now or 2 or 3 years from now, if there is a challenge, you can solve it a lot quicker. And if there isn't a challenge, you get optimal efficiency. I'm a peak performance guy. I don't want to just come because it's a problem. I want to come because I want to take things to another level. And I hope that's true for you too.
Well, thank you so much. When your brain works right, you work right.
Yes.
It's one of the foundational parts of your success at work and relationships, at school, with your health. And I love Tony. I love his work. Check that out, and also take care of your brain.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Blessings.